Hola, mi gente. Welcome back to the Latinos Unidos project. I'm your creator and host, Omar Fernandez Candelaria. I apologize for the wait. I know it's been over a month since the last time I interviewed somebody, and today I actually have two guests, but I'll be interviewing them separately. And of course, as they say, good things come for those that wait, and I'm very excited to be here with these two individuals. So this guest, actually both of them and their family, they've always been on my mind since the inception of this project, since, they're really well known throughout the community here in Lancaster, and they also help out in many ways and continue to do so. So my guest today was born in Ecuador, but was raised in Lancaster, PA, and she's been here ever since. She went to Lancaster Catholic High School, and upon graduation, she attended and graduated from Millersville University, where she majored in speech communication with a concentration in public relations, while minoring in Latino studies, graduating cum laude. She is currently an account coordinator for a strategic communications agency based out of Los Angeles, actually, 860 South, and she will tell us more about that later on. So please help me give a warm welcome to Fayra Molina. Hello. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you for
everybody.
being here.
Shout out to the Latino Unidos project.
Shout out. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Is this Michael?
Yeah, right there.
Okay,
You're good.
Cool. What's up?
How you doing?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful
My makeup
day.
is done.
Oh, there we go. She's ready. She's ready right now.
I'm ready to talk.
So I want to just begin this. So I have sort of like an outline here, but honestly, as we go along, this is probably going to be off script here. But I just want to, I guess, let the people know here the way that I know you. I think the first time we've ever met was, I think, in San Juan Bautista Catholic Church when we went to CCD, right?
Most likely.
Probably. And I know I said this before in other episodes, but I think that San Juan Bautista Catholic Church, and you can also probably talk on this too, I think is a perfect mixing point for a lot of families here. And I'm sure, well, that church in itself has helped out, I'd say, the Latino community in many ways, right?
And I can attest to that as well in regards to like my education and going to Catholic school my whole time. But I think whenever you meet a Latino in Lancaster, it's like, oh, did your abuela go to San Juan, or did your tia go to San Juan? So everyone, I think, if not everyone, has some type of connection to San Juan Bautista.
No, absolutely. And definitely. And your family is also really involved in the Catholic Church, right?
Yes. I'm sure you know my dad,
of
or
course.
A few people know
just
my dad.
Just a few people out there.
He's always running around really fast downtown or anywhere in Lancaster.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been really involved with the church ever since we were young, and since we located to Lancaster. My parents partook a lot in the San Juan Bautista festival that happened every year. Ecuador had their own stands, and my mom was so lovely. My mom would make ceviche every year.
Oh, that's right.
Which is a really, really hard process, but she did it every time. So we did that for a few years back to back. Kind of took a step back from that, but I mean, we are the family that goes to church every Sunday.
Yep.
You'll see my parents there every Sunday. Obviously, I've been a little busy, but that's not an excuse. Sorry, Mom.
We all have.
But yeah, we've been really big in the San Juan community, for sure, and they've helped us out a lot.
That's amazing. No, that's really good to hear. And of course, like, growing up, I also went to San Juan Bautista. Mm-hmm. Been a little busy myself. But,
sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad.
Sorry, familia. But no, that's awesome. So going actually to your background, obviously you were born in Ecuador. How old were you actually when you moved here?
Okay, so actually, when you sent me these questions over, me and Max were discussing. Max is my brother.
Shout
we were discussing kind of the internal discussions we'd always have with ourselves when people would ask us, oh, like, where are you from? Because the easy way would be, oh, we're from Lancaster. But in reality, we both were born in Ecuador, and then we came to Lancaster. So I was actually 11 months old when I came to Lancaster.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was
very
raised
young,
here.
Very young.
I was raised in Lancaster. On a bigger scope, I was raised in America. Mm-hmm. So that's what I knew. However, my parents made it a really big point to make sure we knew what Ecuador was, where Ecuador was, and that most, if not all, and a majority of our family was still there.
Okay.
So that, that's kind of how I got here. And now that I'm 22, I've definitely don't have to argue with myself in regards to who I am and where I came from.
Okay.
And so I always when someone asks where am I from, I'm born in Ecuador, raised in Lancaster.
Amazing, amazing. Because well, my follow-up question was, do you remember anything? You don't remember. You're
No,
not going to
not
remember
at all.
anything.
It's just pictures and stories and upon stories and stories.
Gotcha. And have you been back ever since? Have you gone to
Yeah,
visit family back in
so
Ecuador?
yeah, so we were really fortunate enough in 2015 after Max graduated high school to go back to
Mm.
Ecuador for the first time
Since that initial move.
since we had all moved here, and so
Wow.
on a math thing, that's 15 years
That's a long time. That's a long time.
of putting faces to the stories that we've been told.
Yeah.
Seeing those people in real life instead of pictures, or
Oh, yeah.
maybe
Oh, yeah.
not getting to see them because time has gone, and life happens. And so we were fortunate enough, and obviously we can jump into this later, but a big part of that is immigration and the system and the journey that's like.
Oh, yeah.
So did we miss a lot in between not being able to go back in those 15 years? Of course. Would I change it? No, because I wouldn't be the person I am today without that journey. But yeah, we got to go back in 2015, and then we got to go again in 2019. So we've been back 2 times. And it's always been a very humbling and meaningful experience every time we go back.
And what part of Ecuador are you guys originally from?
We are from Manabí, Puerto Viejo, and then in the small town of Rio Chico.
Okay, amazing, amazing. No, I can relate to that as well. Of course, I was born in Puerto Rico, of course, so my immediate family is here. But right, like I said before, my whole family is either all in Mexico on my dad's side or all in Puerto Rico from my mom's side. And, I've gone to Puerto Rico many times growing up. My parents made a good point to take me and my sister back over there. But Mexico, not so much. The first time I went was when I was 2 years old. And then the next time after that was when I was like 17. So again, I can relate in the sense that you hear these stories, you hear names, you see pictures of people, but you really don't know and how to actually, they're family, but at the same time, it's like,
you kind of walk on eggshells because you don't know, like, can I be myself around you? Yeah, it's a weird, uncomfortable feeling, but once you're in it, it really it does end up feeling like home.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. No, that's amazing. And so you moved here when you were 11 months. Obviously, you grew up here, of course. And did you come straight to Lancaster?
Yeah. Okay. So actually, not too long ago, I asked my dad to tell me the whole thing.
The whole story.
How did we get here? Why Lancaster?
Yeah.
Most of our family lives in New Jersey.
Okay.
Shout out to my family in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Everyone's over there. Most of my mom and my dad's side. My dad's side is a really big side. He's out of 18 kids.
18 kids.
My dad's the 18th. That's why I say he's so short. But then my mom, on the other hand, it's just her and her 2 brothers.
Okay.
So it's kind of like me, Max, and my younger brother. Yeah. That's that dynamic.
Yeah.
So I asked him to kind of just lay it out for me and how Lancaster happened instead of New Jersey, since that's where everyone is. And it kind of was that last minute decision that my parents ended up making. I think a couple days before we all moved to the U.S. There's more to it, of course, but Lancaster is kind of the opportunity lied for my dad at the time in regards to work and possibilities for us. And so we ended up moving with my mom's aunt. Shout out to my aunt. She really held us down when we first got here.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we lived with them for a while. And then the apartment next door went up for rent and we moved in there. And we spent 13 years at that apartment.
Wow.
And then we moved. And yeah, Lancaster's just been
home
base since.
Wow. It's a fun sort of thought experiment, I'm sure, to think back and just wonder, okay, like what if you guys ended up in New Jersey, right? Like how different life would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's going back to sort of what you were saying is like, it's been a long time since the last time you went to Ecuador back in 2015, and you mentioned sort of like, do you regret not going back or like, and you said no, right? Because I think it makes you who you are and sort of, I think that's very important to keep in mind and just sort of look at the people that have surrounded your life up until this point and sort of look back and see, wow, how appreciative and grateful you are of the people around you.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many people that have helped us throughout, I would just say, like our immigration journey as a whole. And those people definitely know who they are, and they without a doubt always hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
Especially since we all just became citizens in September.
Congrats on that.
Finally, I was the last one. With my luck, that is. That's pretty on brand.
Oh, man.
But yeah, it's been a humbling experience. It's been one that helps me understand who I am and who my family is and how hard it took us to get here, but also where my drive comes from and everything that I do and how hard I do have to go, because for 22 years, I always knew there was a barrier or an obstacle that I had to jump or that we all had to jump together, which is why I think my family, my parents specifically, and then myself and my brothers were so hardworking in everything that we do.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely where it stems from.
That's amazing, Fayra. And again, big congratulations on that. That's amazing. And like you said, I'm sure it was a long and difficult journey with many obstacles, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize how difficult it can be unless you're in it. And I mean, I've heard multiple microaggressions in my life. And
as we all have as a Hispanic living in the United States. And sort of then diving a little deeper in there, obviously you're now a U.S. citizen, of course. But so obviously you're an American, but growing up, and I guess to this point, have you ever had sort of like an identity issue?
Oh my God, yeah.
As like, separate, or not even separating, but just knowing that obviously you're Ecuadorian, that is a Latina living in the United States, but also growing up in a very predominantly white, sort of environment.
Right. Well, I'll start by saying that I'm Latina. I was born in Ecuador. But first and foremost, I acknowledge that I'm a white passing Latina.
Sure.
So that comes with its own privileges in itself.
Absolutely.
And so, there's Afro-Latinos or Latinos that are all different shades than I am. And that don't, get the right narrative ever pointed at them.
Yeah.
So I will start off by saying that my identity crisis was major. I remember, because out of my friends, like I knew I was different, not even in regards to like my skin tone, because like I said, white passing, but I knew the journey that my family and myself were under at the time.
Yeah.
From the moment we got here up until maybe the 8th grade. Like we didn't have those papers, those legal titles that, made us feel like we were okay to be here.
Yeah.
So that another point is, this is something I've always dealt with, is like, I was too Latina for my white friends. Oh, your attitude, you're so feisty. Oh, your name is so exotic. And then I was too white for my Hispanic family, my Hispanic friends, and friends of all different backgrounds. So I always kind of fought with the both until I think it was when I jumped into college. It was a public college. I was used to being in a Catholic private school, which was predominantly white. That is just a fact.
It's a fact.
And so when I touched down at Millersville, it was like, okay, like I kind of feel like I can be myself without, your attitude is too much. It's feisty. And it's just like, I've always just been like that.
Yeah, this is you.
Can't handle it. Sorry. But at Millersville, I think I really found my grounds, and I started taking classes that kind of, revolved around the Latino space and Latinidad. And so I was taking those classes out of just like gen eds.
Yeah.
And until the chair came up to me and was like, you're only like a couple credits away from making it a minor.
Oh, perfect.
You might as well just pick it up and fill up your schedule.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And that's how I minored in Latino studies. And that's where I found myself really like unraveling into the issues that the Latino community has, for sure, because there are some. And then
plenty.
Just like the term Latinidad and like your Latin identity and what that means to you and what that represents and what that looks like. So, I mean, I'm growing every day. And like I said, I've realized that I do have privileges as a white passing Latina, but there's definitely some things that need to be talked about for sure in home spaces and definitely other places to create safe spaces.
No, absolutely. I think it's very needed for sure. And there in the United States, I think in general, I think there needs to be more. I mean, it's going to be an ongoing issue for a long time, right?
Yeah. But representation, I mean, it's something that continues to grow and we just need to continue fighting for.
No, absolutely. And just, I guess, a side note, last night I went to go see the Marvel movie Eternals. I'm a big nerd. And I think it was a wonderful film, as much as people didn't like it. But I think that it was cool in the way that representation was established in that movie. You have like these big actors of all different backgrounds and stuff like that. So I think also in film, and all of that. I think there needs to be more work in there, especially within like the Hispanic space as well. Of
For
course,
sure.
there's always those stereotypes, right,
For sure.
of both women and men that I think need to be addressed. But going back to you though, not my Marvel rant here, but so I think it's a good segue because you talked about Latinidad and at Millersville taking these gen eds that turned into a minor. What does Latinidad represent for you? You know, obviously you're Latina, of course, and you know, and it seems like you're very proud of it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's made you who you are. But what is what is that for you?
That's such a, while it's a simple couple words in a question,
but
it's
it's a very complex thing.
Yeah, it's such a heavy one. Let's see. Well, first off, it's being unapologetic about where you're from and your background and how you were raised in regards to being proud of your nationality and your race.
Yeah.
And just living your life according to that. I mean, why put aside how you were raised or the music you grew up with or the food that you eat or pronouncing people's names wrong?
Yeah.
And not being proud of it. So, I mean, back to like the identity crisis, my name, not a typical one. Okay. I get it. However, it means so much to me when someone takes the time to sit there and ask me, okay, how do you pronounce it? Is it Fayra? Well, it's technically Fayra, and I appreciate Omar for actually saying my name correctly. It's so nice to hear my name being pronounced correctly.
What do other people say?
Oh my God,
I'm sure there's a whole list.
The first one is Fayra.
Fayra. Okay.
I've heard a couple. It's the spelling a lot too.
I'm sure that
but I also take the time to spell it out for them. Like I said, I've gotten into an age where I'm not ashamed of my name. Not that I ever was, but it was like, fine, call me Fayra and we can just keep it pushing.
Keep going.
But now it's like, no, it's Fayra. Fayra.
Period.
Don't forget it.
Period.
No, I understand people are going to forget it. It's not a typical name.
Sure.
But I used to go to Starbucks and say my name was Sam.
Really?
Yeah. So it's just easier.
I
Sometimes
see.
I'm in a rush and you can't mess up the name Sam. Sure. No offense to anyone out there named Sam watching this. You've helped me out. But I've grasped my name. My entire name, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of it. But back to Latinidad, it's just being proud of who you are and embracing that, but also being a platform for other Latinos that don't have maybe that same privilege that I do.
Of course.
So for sure.
No, I think that speaks a lot. Just especially like your name alone, I think does represent sort of a growth in you, right? Where you're very unapologetic with all of that comes with that. And that's awesome, right? I'm glad to hear that, of course.
But it's funny because my brothers have like the simple names.
Right.
No offense. But like Xavier and Max, you can't mess those up. And then it's
No, it's cool though. I think it's very unique, right? And it's sort of the same thing with my name. However, I've been called Omar my whole life just because, I don't know, I've just been called Omar. Omar's my middle name. Right, my first name is Froilan.
Right.
But I remember, growing up as well, whenever it'd be like the first day of school or whatever, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, or you have a substitute teacher.
Do they just stop?
They just stop. They're like, they literally,
on a roll. It's like Mark,
it's like Adam,
Timmy.
Mark, John, Brittany.
And then it's just a pause. And
then, it's Froilan, but you can call me Omar.
I get that.
So I remember that sort of dynamic as well.
Yeah.
It's tough sometimes. It's tough. But no, that's amazing though.
But they usually don't forget you.
That is true. I didn't even really think about that. No, that's awesome. Have you ever met another Fayra at all in your life?
No, but there was a situation. I was at work. Shout out El Serrano.
There we go.
I was in the office, the manager's office, and they had called someone, and whoever picked up had mentioned, oh, this is Fayra. How can I help you? And I was like, whoa. And we all stopped and we were like, did we just hear that right? But we kind of just like let it go over our heads and moved on. But other than that situation, I've never met anyone personally with my name. But my origin story to my name, because I've been asked that before, is I'm not really sure if there's a meaning to it. I've had people try to Google it for me, but it's like, I've done that before too and haven't found anything. But my dad actually had a friend back in Ecuador with that name, and he always mentioned to my mom if they had a girl, the name would be Fayra because it was such a unique one.
Yeah, no, I think so. No, I think I've only met one other Froilan other than my dad. My dad's also Froilan. He goes by Froy. Shout out Froy. I've actually met one other Froilan here in Lancaster. This was years ago. I think he used to work at at El Rodeo, you the Mexican restaurant here in Lancaster. But and I think I met him again actually a couple months ago. But yeah, it's also like a very unique name. And so my grandfather, he wasn't Froilan, he was Florian, like
Okay.
Florian.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess they just wanted to continue that. But I guess like growing up too, I think the one of the reasons as to why I didn't like Froilan that much too was just because of like how difficult it was. I like it now. Like
Yeah.
my artist name is Froy. Like I take
F
it.
names are where it's at.
That's where it's at. That's where it's at. That's right. That's right. But yeah, no, I guess Omar is just kind of me, you know.
Yeah, I think I know you guys.
Okay, so moving on, obviously we touched on Millersville a little
Mhm.
bit, and of course you majored in speech communication. Walk me through that. What
Yeah.
happened in high school leading up to Millersville, or did you figure that out in Millersville?
Okay, so yeah, graduated high school. In high school, I was involved on the broadcasting team,
Okay.
so I was in front of like the school and the cameras
Yeah.
every day and reading script. So I kind of always had like a niche for communication as a whole, specifically like entertainment.
Okay.
I love pop culture, and so, but going into Millersville, well, let me just say Millersville was not my first option. You can ask anyone in my family how hard I tried to fight that battle. Long story short, I ended up at Millersville.
Of course.
I had a real stink attitude about it when I first started.
Yeah.
But then I kind of had like this come to Jesus moment, and it's
Sure.
and the concept of making things the journey you want it to be, but it takes you to make it that is what settled in. So I changed my attitude instead of being miserable and doing bad at school.
Just kind of make best with what you got right now.
That's
right?
yeah,
And
that's
having
kind
a
of what I
positive
had.
outlook.
Yep, that's the realization I had. And when I started Millersville, I was actually a social work major.
Okay.
Shout out to the social work department at Millersville because that is a really, really big job and journey. And so I still have friends in that department. So shout out to you guys.
We're going through.
Right. It's a great program. But I took a couple classes and I realized that I don't think this is where my future lies in.
Yeah.
But I always felt good with, or not, I didn't feel guilty leaving. Only because I told myself I can continue volunteering or helping people on my own time, on my spare time. So that really like gave me peace of mind that I wasn't giving up on something.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so my second, runner up was that communications itch that I always had.
Yeah.
And so PR, I grew up in the age, and you did too, of like pop culture and like influencers and
all of that.
That market on Instagram of like paid partnerships and ads, all of that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and I'm always on my phone. So that's kind of what I saw and gravitated to. And I was like, well, how do I get here? What do I have to do? And so Millersville has their speech communications program, and then you can minor or you can have an option in public relations.
Okay.
And so I was like, perfect.
Awesome.
Let me do that.
Yeah,
and that's where I dove in. And 4 years later, I'm at a great place in my life in regards to my career. And
that's awesome.
I couldn't have done it without my professors. I still keep a really good line of communication with one of my professors who was like the pivotal professor in PR at Millersville.
Yeah.
If anyone from Millersville watches this, you know who I'm talking about, but they are a great professor. That really just puts you in check.
Yeah.
And is great at criticizing your work.
Okay.
In a good way.
Sure.
It's intimidating for sure, but
absolutely. Right? Hearing some criticism, right?
Yeah, but throughout my PR journey in the comm department, I realized that I had to keep criticism and feelings aside.
Okay.
They're two different things, and that's something that I try to tell people a lot that are still in the department, or even when I was there, is like with this professor or with this major as a whole. Criticism is great. Whether you feel like you're being, cornered, it's really not. You just have to, you build that tough skin. Like your work is great. You just have to tweak it a little bit.
Sure, improve upon
and
it.
so my feelings and criticism, I've learned to keep that, and it really helps me moving forward.
That's crazy, I guess, that like as a program, you have professors sort of criticizing sort of your work, right? Because I come
in front of the class.
In front of the class.
I mean, like crossing things off in front, going around the classroom and vocalizing their criticism.
I have a science background, right? I do chemistry, and there's really nothing to criticize, I guess, other than like the research that you do. But it's like I'm not standing in front of the class and the professor's sort of like berating my work or anything. So honestly, props to you. That's amazing. And I'm sure, again, like you said, I'm sure that's what made you to be who you are now. And of course, like being successful in your career.
So Millersville was a great ride for me. I ended up being president of PRSSA, which is Public Relations
cool.
Student Society of America,
Sorry.
which was awesome. And I got to network a lot there and attend a conference, which ultimately got me in the position that I am in today.
That's a perfect segue, because I was going to ask.
Which just goes to show networking.
Goes a long way.
Networking, man. It
Goes
really
a
does.
long
You never
way,
know
y'all.
who you're going to meet or run into or exchange Instagrams with. So
Absolutely. No, that's cool. And so how long have you been working at your current job right now?
So I started off as an intern.
Okay.
January 2021.
Okay.
So right at the beginning of the year.
Beginning of the year.
And then all the way through May as an intern. I actually was taking it for credit. For graduating credit. Had to write a huge 10-page paper on it afterwards. And then I was actually onboarded right after the internship concluded.
Amazing.
So
big congrats.
Thank you. That was the internship ended in May. I started in May.
Wow.
Obviously I had my graduation. I got to enjoy it. I had like a week or two off to enjoy my time. And then I was just right back on it. And I've been there since.
That's cool. And I remember, I think a previous conversation we had on Instagram or something. You sometimes travel, right, to LA or just like around?
Yeah.
And how is that journey? You know, how is that?
So yeah, as Omar mentioned earlier, my my job is based out of Los Angeles. It's a boutique strategic communications agency. Shout out to my boss and to my coworker. And so they're based in LA and I work remotely. However, I do get to go out there as needed for events, for work. And it's been a really great experience. If you ask anyone in my family, my plan was to graduate and dip.
Peace out. Peace
out. But it just hasn't happened for me yet, which is totally fine. It's totally fine if your plan does not go according to plan.
It's very okay. Like, very okay. And that's something that I've had to learn in the past, like I'd say a year or two, is like, you know, it's okay when things don't work out the way you have it envisioned, right? And that's fine. Life happens the way it needs to happen.
Exactly. I think, right? And so back to the earlier point that I made about making the best out of my situation.
Yeah.
So now I'm 22, and the idea of, and I've told my boss this, and I've told my coworker this, and anyone I run across, packing my bag in a split second, and then driving to the airport, hopping on a plane, being in LA for a couple of days, and then coming back has like really filled my cup in a way.
Okay.
Because some people like, weren't you just in Lancaster yesterday and now you're in LA?
Right.
Something in regards to being able to do that without like being held back or feeling, you know, some type of guilt is great.
That's cool.
I've loved being able to just pack my bag and go. Right. Because my boss will tell me like a week or a couple of days before, like, hey, can you come down to LA? And I'm like, yes, no problem.
Oh, that's amazing though. No, that's cool, right? Like having the ability to travel like that.
Yeah, and it's been a blessing for sure.
So I know that you wanted to dip after, you know, of course, like graduating. You know, what places did you have in mind? I guess like
it was LA.
It was LA.
I was out. You can ask anyone. I was going to LA.
I see.
But like I said, now any city I go to, I want to move to.
Oh, that's
so now
funny.
I'm indecisive.
That's funny.
But Lancaster, like I said, it's homebound.
Yeah.
It's just where I'm at, and it's great to know that you can come back home.
Oh yeah, no.
At any given time.
For me personally, you know, I wanted to dip. I don't know where as well. Like after graduation, like Millersville, and you know, of course, then I decided to go to grad school, and I had the opportunity to go elsewhere. But I ultimately decided Wisconsin, which was really important time in my life, just to kind of be like by myself, you know, figuring my own stuff out on my own. But I never really realized like, wow, like Lancaster is home, right? Like it means a lot to me personally, and I'm like so happy to be back. I know I've been here less than a year, but I don't know. I don't want to go nowhere, or at least like I don't want to go far where like seeing my family
becomes an issue.
Becomes an issue.
No, for sure, and I totally understand that. Lancaster. I think me and you might have the same mindset on this in regards to just being in Lancaster.
Yeah.
Our whole life.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the plan is to leave eventually. But now that I'm getting older.
Yeah.
I start to appreciate having my parents at my fingertips.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Or like being able to sit down with my brothers and laugh about random things.
Yeah.
or just knowing where everything is. It's comfortable, but not in a negative way.
Absolutely.
And Lancaster has grown, and that's another topic.
Oh yeah,
it's another topic to have. But
100%.
It's great. It's been great.
Yeah, no, 100%. Again, like I ask my coworkers, but I just talk about Lancaster constantly, and I tell them to just come because they're all based out of like Philly.
Yeah.
I commute for work, and I just can't stop talking about it just because like there's a little bit of a little bit of something for everybody. I think. Of course, we're not Philly, New York City by any means.
Yeah, whatever Forbes magazine said, I don't think we're a little Brooklyn or whatever they had mentioned.
No, absolutely not. But I think there is a little bit of something for everybody, and especially just like the community here, I think is very.
There's so much talent here.
There's so much talent.
So much talent.
There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of great people here, and a lot of great people doing great things too for the community, I think. But yeah. So I guess that kind of answers because one of my questions was, what does Lancaster mean for you? And it seems that like it means like home for you, right?
I mean, yeah, and welcoming is a word that also comes into my head. Just this is where we settled.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what life would have been like have we not had settled in Lancaster.
Absolutely.
This community is pretty accepting
Yeah.
in regards to immigrants, refugees.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still more work to be done. But that said, in a critical moment of my life, it was above and beyond when it comes to welcoming.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so then kind of going back to that point that we were kind of talking about earlier, and I asked you, what does Latinidad mean for you?
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the flip side. What does being American mean for you? Right? Obviously, I guess like you've had your whole life been here, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and you know the struggles that everything there is to being Latino here in the United States. But I guess that question, or if you want to answer another one, but like, what is the American dream for you?
Ooh, that gave me chills.
And there's obviously no right or wrong answer. It's
right.
Really
but it's just like when you ask that, I just start getting like flashbacks or like floods of memories.
Sure.
Just because our immigration process was so excessive and so long in regards to time, 22 years. It sounds unrealistic, but it happened to us. I don't think I ever really saw the day happening. I mean, I knew it was going to happen.
Sure.
Well, fingers crossed we knew it was going to hope it would happen. But now that it's actually here, it's a surreal moment because like I said, memories just flood back.
Yeah.
Because I remember, certain instances that things were looking bad and they weren't looking up. And I can only imagine what my parents, felt if they regretted their decision, if maybe we should just go back type of questions. So
definitely.
Now that I'm an American citizen, it doesn't feel any different, if I'm being quite honest with you. Other than like when I had my swearing ceremony.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, it was super short. It was like a 15-minute, 20-minute ceremony.
Okay, so completely different than like
different than the normal one, which is like they have guest speakers, they have music.
Cool.
It's like an hour, and a half.
Celebration.
Right. It's with like 100 and some other people that are also swearing in that day. But mine and my family's, because of COVID, it was like 40 people.
Okay.
Per like citizenship class and swearing ceremony. No music, no guest speakers. It was just an officer there, reading your certificate, and then everyone that's in the room with you claps, and then you just walk out.
And then continue on.
And so
it almost seems like a graduation, right? Where you announce your name and 2 claps, and then you go on your way. Yeah.
So I swore in, and it was really like a humbling experience.
Okay.
I remember like having my right, and reciting everything, the oath that you take. And I was like, oh my God, like we did it. Like we finally, and I was the last one to do it out of my parents and my older brother.
Yeah.
And so, and then I just walked out and I was like, oh, this was so anticlimactic.
Right.
And then I just went home.
No, I mean, obviously,
I'm like 22 years for 20 minutes, but I mean, that's just how it happened with COVID and stuff. But
I know. No, definitely. No, that's awesome. Again, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you. I appreciate
amazing.
that so much.
Amazing. And for those obviously watching this video, of course, and sort of what Fayra said earlier, it's hard to envision that sort of struggle that I'm sure you and your family had to endure for 2 decades, right? More than 2 decades.
Yeah.
And of course, like you said, 22 years for 20 minutes, but just keep in mind that there's a lot behind sort of just that
Closed
little
doors
ceremony.
at that for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and it's a struggle, and also that many families face here in the United States, of course. And with this project, I want to give light to that and give people a different perspective, of course, that like what other people had to go through and stuff like that.
But what keeps me going for sure is that I'm a product of the immigration system, being an immigrant as a whole, and then being able to see where I'm at now, in the position that I am now. It's such a humbling experience. Like, and this is what I've been driven to do, like, since I was little. Like, I wanted to do something with my life, and I feel like I'm definitely starting to get there.
No, that's amazing, Fayra. And so then, kind of alluding to that, so what are your motivations? What drives you, I guess, like on your day to day, or even just in general?
I would say my family. Not to single anyone out, but specifically my dad. And anyone that knows my dad always sees how on the carrera, like he's just always on go. He is, and that is the definition of a hardworking man for sure. And you see it. I see it every day. So my family, my dad specifically, and other immigrants that are in this situation that I literally just closed a chapter on.
Okay.
That keeps me going. To be some type of figure that they can be like, oh, she made it, so I can too.
Absolutely.
The si se puede, like
si se puede.
Si se puede, si se pudo, like been there, done that. I get it.
Amazing.
And just my family in Ecuador.
Okay.
And my job keeps me going, and seeing, people that I work with appreciate the work that I do.
Oh yeah,
is always a really great motivation.
It's a big plus for sure. Having supportive people like that in your life.
Yeah, and just my job and
No, that's amazing.
Everyday things.
Yeah, no, for sure. I give thanks to my parents too, and not to single anybody out as well, but my dad as well is also a very hardworking person. Like, whoever knows his story, they can tell you that that man just lived two lives, as in like worked two lives into one to make sure that we have what we have today. And super appreciative of that as well. And I'm sure same with you, but I look at my dad as a role model as well, in the sense that like, si se puede, si se pudo, in the sense that like anything that you want to accomplish, like you can, right? With hard work and dedication.
And with great people surrounding you.
And with great people. And of course, you mentioned your family as well. But has there ever been somebody externally that has sort of impacted your life in a positive way, or like pushed you? I know you mentioned like a professor.
Aside from like family, because I would say my cousins, but that's immediate family. My professor at Millersville, Dr. Wood. She really like paved the ground for me in regards to feelings and criticism. Two different things in the field that you're about to embark in.
Yeah.
She's one of the best and the toughest professors in the public relations department option at Millersville. But I recommend everyone who is in this field to take her, regardless of what you've heard. She will make you put in the work.
Oh my gosh.
And if you put that work into your work every day, you will see results.
Absolutely. And it is people like that who are tough and hard, but deep down, that their intentions are good. Right?
Oh, yeah.
They want to shape you into a better you. And somebody like that in my own career as like a scientist, Dr. Vilmari Lopez Mejias, shout out. She's at University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras. Oh, wow. And so in 2017, the summer of 2017, I had the privilege of doing research during the summer there.
Okay.
And she was a professor that I did research under. And it was my first time ever doing research at all. So everything was new to me. She was very tough. And I didn't know that until looking back. And, very, very detailed oriented and criticized, whatever needed to be criticized. And I look back and I'm still grateful for that experience too, because now that's sort of like my mindset. And I know that like, you just need hard people like that in your life to sort of guide you and form you to be a better person, whatever it may be, right? Like being an artist or in communication or a scientist.
And there's so many more. There's so many other people right now that I can't think of right now on the spotlight, but I'm sure they know who they are.
Yeah.
And all I can say is thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you isn't enough, but thank you.
No, amazing, Fayra. And obviously we're wrapping up the year. It's 2021. What does 2022 look for you? If you've ever given any thought to it, what are things that you want to do?
I
anything.
actually have not thought that far yet.
Yeah.
And it's because I've been a little busy. That said, I'm really looking forward to a positive year in regards to like growth personally, career wise, new opportunities. I think that's everyone's hope going into the year. So it really just, depends on us to make the best out of the situation, which has been a common theme in my life.
Of course.
And so, yeah, just being happy and loving what I'm doing and continue to grow.
Yeah. And hopefully, right.
And maybe move. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe dip to LA. Who knows?
We'll see.
No. And of course, we haven't touched this on yet, right? And in our conversation here, but obviously there's a pandemic, right? The pandemic is happening. So obviously this happened, 2020 is when the pandemic first started?
2019, 2020.
How was that for you? How is everything for you, whether it be your family, yourself, your career, school?
It was,
because you graduated this year, right?
Yeah. So school wise,
yeah.
I did my junior year spring semester online, and then my whole senior year was online.
It was all online.
Wow. Which was a change. I bought a desk. I bought a desk lamp. I bought a chair for my desk.
Yeah.
That I had to fit in my room. That I obviously made work. The only con to it is that my desk was literally right next to my bed. Do you know how hard it is to roll out of bed and sit in your desk?
It is hard. So when I was in Madison, right, that was during the pandemic too. And all my classes when it first started were all online as well. And so I worked as a TA, a teaching assistant. So I gave class. And then, I had the opportunity to do that in person, but then everything got moved online. And it was such a weird transition. But it was the same thing. It's like I would wake up at like 8:55 from my bed because my desk was also next to my bed. Literally get ready somehow or just change a shirt.
For your 9 a.m.
and keep your sweatpants on. And then like teach or get to class and whatnot. So it was weird.
So school was definitely a challenge because I had to create a strict schedule for myself to follow. So anyone who did it graduated during COVID, and before that, we did that. Yeah. That's what I will say.
No, honestly, my heart goes to everybody that had to endure school during that time. For sure.
Family wise, it was strange, and not to get too much into it, but my abuela passed away in April, my mom's mom. But we were fortunate enough to see her in Ecuador the last time we had gone.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And then my mom got into some medical issues as well during the peak of COVID. And so that was a battle in itself, but we did it. Obviously there was restrictions and stuff in hospitals, but I'm very lucky and blessed to have her today. No, and awesome. You would have never thought anything happened to her, which is such a blessing.
That is a blessing. And I'm happy to hear that.
Thank you. But yeah, so many things happened, not only for myself, but for so many other people. And unfortunately, death felt like that common theme during COVID. Yeah. And so, I'm looking forward to that light at the end of the tunnel after all of this. But I know it was definitely a time to grow for people as well. For myself as well, do some self-reflection. Yeah. Were there days where I just spent it in bed? Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
But there were also those days where you kind of just plot. And you're just like, what do I want to do next after this?
And no, I completely agree with you. And again, I'm glad to hear that your mom's recovered and she's doing well, of course. And I'm sorry to hear the passing of your grandmother.
Thank you.
But the pandemic, like then and now, just as I think it was a stop for a lot of people to sort of, like you said, self-reflect on yourself. I've learned many things about myself, and I've grown to the person I am now. Thanks, which is kind of weird. Thanks to the pandemic, but obviously, why we're there isn't really to be thankful for. But anyway, so I learned a lot too, and sort of self-reflect. And I think the biggest takeaway for me personally was just sort of, and kind of going back to that, was also aligning expectations. So for me, like I would always have this plan in my mind of like things that they're going to happen this way, right? Like it's sort of set in stone, kind of what we talked about off camera. And things just don't happen the way that you envision it most times.
They sure don't. And my closest friends, you can ask anyone. I like to have things planned out.
Okay.
It's something that bites me all the time. So I've been learning,
Yeah.
tread lightly with that. I've been learning to let go of having everything so planned out.
Yep.
And just going with the flow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I've had a
yeah.
few people teach me the cons that come with going with the flow. It's you appreciate time.
Absolutely.
And then it also makes you think about that every day. Every day that you wake up is a blessing.
Absolutely.
And so you should live in that day, in that moment.
100%. 100%. You know, and of course we're human, right? We're always like improving ourselves and stuff like that. Nothing changes from one night to another. Or if it does, then you're a superhuman. But
Right.
but that's good to hear, Fayra. I think we've been here for like 40 some minutes now. I think we'll wrap it up.
This was great. Thank you so much for having me.
Fayra, thank you.
This is such a great
honor.
space to have. Like, I don't think you understand this. I was nervous before I got on, and now I'm like, do you want to keep
Right?
we can keep going. We can keep talking.
I told Fayra this too off camera, but I honestly get nervous. I really do.
Y'all
No matter how much or how less I know the person sitting down with me, I get nervous. But yeah, after a while, right? It's just a conversation.
It is, and it's about being Latino.
It's being Latino
and being who we are and who we've always been. So this is great. It's nice to sit down and relate on a lot of things that many people can't.
Yeah, of course, and that's the point of this project too, right? Is to give light of your life and sort of your struggles and who you are, but then to also give a perspective to the audience and just thank you again for taking the time out of your day to sit down with me. And it's been a great conversation for sure. Thank you. All right, mi gente. Well, thanks for watching. This is episode 4. Episode 4. Yeah. I see a thumbs up over there with Fayra Molina. Thank you again. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this. It would help me tremendously to continually grow this channel, this project. And I hope that we can all stay unidos as Latinos.
For sure.
And I'll see you next time. Peace.